Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. Today, I'm speaking with Yasemin, a senior front-end developer with nearly a decade of experience. She also hosts a podcast called Commit to Growth, where I recently was a guest. She has excellent topics that are technical about career strategies. I'm really excited to have you on today and speak about a few of my favorite topics, like front-end interview prep, going from junior to senior, and what it's like being a front-end developer in 2025. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, by the way. I'm really excited to be here.
Me too. I don't speak to enough front-end developers in general, and I love the fact, one, that you have a podcast that's like really technical. You talk about things like core web vitals, scaling code bases, a lot of things that front-end developers, I feel like, is missing from the dialogue online. People in general, and me too a little bit. I started off in front-end, and I'm still mostly front-end, but I feel like nowadays, like, everything is full stack. No one talks about front-end development, and I'm happy to have you on there, especially as experienced senior person, to get your take on some things, because I know that a lot of people want to get into front-end. They're either nervous about it or the changing landscape. Front-end is tough, and you and I have been doing this for about the same amount of time, and we've both seen how much it's changed. I'm curious, because this is a question I get from a lot of people. How do you go from junior to senior? Was there a point in your career where you're like, okay, I'm no longer junior? Like, when was that magical moment that you said, I'm not a junior anymore?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. I think when I was a junior developer, I was very focused on code itself. As I said earlier, I was all the time worried that I was falling behind, catching up, and completing tutorial-based projects to do. I don't even remember how many times I completed this to-do app in different languages. I was also very much focused on features and not thinking about the bigger picture, why we are building it and who is going to use it, what we are doing actually here. I was given tasks. I believe I also attributed to the fact that I was working as a contractor. I'm not sure if you have an experience working as a contractor, but working as a contractor is way different than working as an employee, because if you are a contractor, you are, at least this is my experience, I believe it might vary again, but from my experience, when I was working as a contractor, I was given a specific task, technical task, and I was focused on that one. I wasn't involved in product decision. I was in those meetings, to be honest, but I was just using or treating grooming sessions like extra time to code.
I know what you mean. Yep.
Yeah. And instead of the opportunity to engage in discussions about the product. But I think this is the moment that I felt like when I grew into a more senior role, I started realizing how important it is to actually be part of the product conversation and questioning it and taking initiative, not relying on people or not waiting for a task to be handed to me instead, and asking around and telling them, oh, this is something that I noticed. I think we can improve it. So let's do it together. And I'm not sure if you have such things, but in Preply, we have this chart. I really like that one. And it shows every level, P7, P6, P8. If you, let's say you are a P7 engineer and want to become a P8 engineer, and there are certain things that you can follow. For example, engaging in a product decision and coming up with ideas or taking on initiative, company-wise initiative, such things. So it's nice, again, like there is a lot of ways to achieve these goals, but it's just the outline that you can follow. I think that was one thing that I noticed, that I am no longer a junior developer, but I will say that it's not because my coding improved drastically. I started to write tens of thousands of lines. It's not about that, but my mindset changed, mostly related to product.
That's super Solid insight right there. Because yeah, I think a lot of people think that they're gonna. That was my problem. I thought
Mhm.
I'm just gonna get so good at writing JavaScript. I'm gonna learn all these weird intricacies, and I'm gonna read all these books, and I'm gonna know all these weird little pieces of JavaScript. And I thought that would make me senior. But you're right. It's not. It's not about just getting infinitely better at code. It's about having the product mindset, being able to contribute to the product direction. It's kind of like at a certain point, if you're senior, you're kind of the person they look to in the room to have an opinion on something. Or if there's a bug that happened, they kind of look to you like you've probably seen something like this before. So I think there's a mix of experience and ownership and that product mindset. If you were mentoring somebody like a junior developer that said, "Hey, can you mentor me? And I want to become a senior," what would you tell them to focus on besides technical skills?
Mhm. I would recommend focusing on, I believe, soft skills or behavioral skills,
Hmm.
such as improving communication and mentoring is very important. Not being afraid of taking on initiative. And one more thing that I also started doing when I grew into more senior role is that
Hmm.
building strong problem solving skills. It goes
Mm.
beyond the framework, a library, or language you are using, but focusing on problem solving skills in both technical and non-technical. It's very crucial. And writing code that's maintainable is also a very, I think, important thing to consider. And thinking about the next developer who is going to read it. Because back when I was a junior,
Yeah.
I was
Uh-huh.
very proud of the code that I wrote when I used a lot of complicated things such as, I don't know, inheritance, polymorphism, when I wrote such code, or using even generators like in
Oh
JavaScript.
yeah. Hmm.
I mean, why generators, right? If there is a simpler way to do it and just go for it, async await is
Hmm.
fine and no need to use generator. But back then I was like, okay, I needed to prove that I know how to
Yeah.
write. But I
Yeah.
mean, now I do value simpler code so that people, or especially next developer, will not struggle as much.
Oh, that's a good one because it's so funny you said generators because I remember when I like learned them, I was like looking for ways to introduce them into the code base. I'm like, how can I use a generator here? Because I really wanted to do it, or I find something cool like I forget the pipeline operator or something. It's like an experimental feature, and I was like, oh, how can I use this? But you're right, it's like you need to use the tool for the job, but also think about like the end of the day, this is other humans reading this. Like these are teammates on our team, and these are humans, not robots, that need to be able to extend the code, understand what it says, and debug it quickly and easily, and not have to call on you every time something breaks because they don't understand your beautifully
Yeah.
written code. That is super funny that we
Yeah.
did some of the same things there. But it's fun, right? You learn something, you want to show it off. You're like, oh yeah, I want to show
Yeah.
off this cool new thing I learned, or like make my code more elegant and all these kind of things. You talked a lot about some technical hard skills also. How important do you think it is now, like with AI, with frameworks, to be really good at JavaScript as a front end developer?
Mm, I think it's a lot simpler, I would say, because you can now pull an open source project and ask an AI and walk you through the whole project. And this way you can get yourself familiar with that within a matter of hours. But
Hmm.
back when I was a junior, AI wasn't a thing that I was reading a book, literally a book. I remember myself
Yeah.
reading all the
Hmm.
time. Right now, I still try to read a book, but not in a way that like I don't have a book anymore, like how to write a code, C# code. Like I don't have that book anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I guess it's a lot easier when you think of it this way.
Okay. Okay. I talked to you. I'm sure you know Kyle Simpson, right? The guy that wrote the "You
Mhm.
Don't Know
Yeah,
JavaScript"
I
series.
know.
I actually asked him this question. I was like,
Uh,
"Hey, what do you think about like learning JavaScript now?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, "Maybe you don't need to be that good at JavaScript anymore." I was kind of shocked when he said that. He's like, "So the reality is, he's like, you need to definitely have like some fundamentals down. Like you need to know like some basics of
mhm,
JavaScript. But how deep do you need to go nowadays?" He's like, if you're getting paid to write React or Angular or Vue for whoever's using Vue, you're going to need to know JavaScript for sure. But like
mhm.
you're not writing JavaScript for the most part. Like you're just not writing that much vanilla JavaScript in a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis for most jobs,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of JavaScript, let's move on to interviews, which is
Mhm.
one of my favorite topics. And we always talk, if everybody wants to talk about Google and
Mm.
Facebook and Netflix, I'm like, well, you're not going to go interview there. Let's just be
Mhm.
honest. Most of us are never going to interview with those companies. Those are the top 1%, or not. I mean, even not even the top. They're just like, they take up 1% of all software engineering roles. The other 99% are much different. And front end
Mhm.
interviews even get talked about even less. People
Mm.
forget like front end interviews are a thing. When it comes to interview prep for you as a front end developer, how do you prepare for a front end interview?
Mhm. I want to quickly tell you what I've gone through in
Okay,
terms of interviews, because
please.
I had a mix of interview experience over the years. I
Okay.
say they really shaped how I think about interviews nowadays. Right after I graduated from college, most interviews I had were very algorithm focused, because I was interviewing for banks. I
Mm,
mean, in Turkey, so
okay.
they were asking me questions like I don't know, algorithm questions, lead code kind
Yeah.
of questions, and
Hmm.
um, I remember one day I was interviewing for a bank. They asked me questions related to mostly in Java and algorithm. And then later, I started applying for contractor roles, which are remote based. The interviews were
Hmm.
more framework specific. For example, for React Native roles, I asked direct questions like, what's the difference between React and React Native? And then these I'm not sure if you have ever come across such questions, especially in GitHub, like top 100 questions,
Oh yeah, for sure.
React Native
Yep.
questions, and they were
Yeah.
literally asking me such questions. I remember that HR was asking those questions, technical questions, in the first round, and then she was kind of taking notes and
Hmm.
expecting the right answer, like
Oh
what is
yeah.
yeah,
I
what is
hated that when
Redux?
they'd expect the
Yeah,
exact thing and like
exactly.
they don't know the answer.
They don't know the answer. It's very hard to pass this level, to be honest. And
Hmm.
also, like some companies gave home assignments, then schedule a follow-up call where I walk them through the project, which I really like, by the way, because not only helped me created an app and or a web project, so I was able to tell them, or the way how I created those projects. I like those interviews a lot,
Yeah.
but uh, then I would tell you that I had an opportunity to interview with Amazon, and
Hmm.
it was for Berlin location, Berlin hub, but it was very completely different than
Okay.
yeah, what I was expecting or what I gone through for like applying for a job in contractor based
Hmm.
companies. I had 7 rounds of interviews, and it was very overwhelming. Uh, I didn't get the job, by the way, and it was a, it was a great learning experience, because one thing I appreciate was how much emphasis they put on behavioral question. Up until
Yes.
then, I wasn't interested in that part. I was focused on technical part only. And after I had an interview with Amazon, I started to think more and more about behavioral things such as conflict resolution,
Mm.
decision making, collaboration, and that's something smaller companies often overlook. But I really believe soft skills are just as important as technical ones. Yeah.
Oh my God, especially as you get more senior. Because
Yeah.
I realized this at some point. My interviews went from like build a React component or let's like build a class for a bank or something like
Mm,
that into like, hey, you are a manager. How would you resolve a conflict between design and product teams? And you have a deadline. I'm like, oh, I was not prepared for this question at all. And
mm,
I was thinking it was going to be purely technical, but you're right. I actually went through the Amazon rounds as
mhm.
well, and yeah, the
Oh,
7 round interview thing. Maybe
yeah.
that's not as common in Turkey or in the
Mhm.
UK in general, but in the US, I feel like all my interviews now are 6 rounds, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds
Really?
of interviews.
Oh,
It's draining, and I'm like, like, why do you guys have so much time? I mean, if you're Amazon, I get it. You have enough time and money to burn. But if you're
Yeah.
like a startup, I'm like,
Yeah.
do you really want to do 7 rounds of interviews and have all your engineers doing this like for
Yeah.
multiple people? It's just not a great idea. But yeah,
True.
the behavioral piece is so important. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like technical prep for maybe more like junior roles,
Mm-hmm.
like what would you recommend people do if they're like, hey, I'm getting ready for a technical interview for front end? Like what would you tell them to
Mm-hmm.
go about it?
I genuinely think that it is based on company because every
Hmm.
company's focus is different. As I said earlier, there were some companies that I interviewed with, and they were mostly focused on technical things or framework-based knowledge, such as if you are applying for a React Native role, then you should brush up on React Native skills. You should definitely
Yeah.
go through the architecture, new architecture, or performance issues. You should prepare some answers, for example, for the questions like what's the most technical or challenging project that you ever worked on. Such things, I guess it's very crucial. But again, and if you are applying for a framework role, then it's very important to go through a framework, and it is very
Hmm.
less likely to be asked question lead code questions for these jobs. But for larger companies, I'll spend more time on lead code or similar platforms, and I always also go over behavioral questions. I believe nowadays interviewers started to ask more and more questions, behavioral questions,
Hmm.
even in startup companies. It's getting very popular. I believe it's very important to brush up on that. But for technical, again, we can use open source projects such as top 10, top 100 questions,
Hmm.
and quickly go through that. And also, I noticed that people started to focus on framework and forget about how to write pure JavaScript. It is also a bit important, for example, how to write an event emitter and the things that we
Oh
are using
yeah.
every day, but not knowing how things are working. For example, like we are using candidates often saying that they are using MobX observable pattern, but they don't know event emitter, how it works. So it's just something that we need to deep dive into the foundational things as well.
Oh my God. You just like took me back to an interview where I was
Mhm.
writing an event emitter. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that
Yeah,
interview. Yeah,
yeah.
really good. Really good advice. Yeah, like don't skip over these fundamental things, and also just to understand
Mhm.
the patterns and the patterns that you're leveraging in a code base like React or Angular or whatever library you're using is probably based on some old pattern that is like very well documented that you could look up and understand how it works, and you might be asked to implement in vanilla JavaScript. Really, that's
Mhm.
a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I want to get some hot takes from you, if that's okay.
Yeah, I would say that for someone who is trying to get into tech, is that it might be overwhelming in the first place, but over time it's gonna get easier. That's something that I can tell from my experience, and
Hmm.
I think we should stop keeping up with new technologies, instead focusing on one thing at a time and trying to learn and be good at this one thing, and
That one
then if
thing.
we are interested and we can expand our knowledge. But if you don't know one thing, one programming language well, then it's just a waste of time knowing every single frameworks out there. Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah.
I got a couple other hot takes I'm curious about
Yeah.
to hear your idea about. What is a front end tool or framework you think is overrated?
Mm, yeah, it's a good one. I don't know. I would say React, and
Ooh.
because it's not very hard, to be honest, to get yourself familiar with. It might look
Hmm.
scary for someone who is coming from different environment, or this is something that crossed my mind right now. I bet there are more, but
For sure, for sure.
yeah.
Okay, okay. How do you feel about TypeScript? Do you like using TypeScript, or you think it's just making it more difficult to write front end code?
Um, I do like it, to be honest. I was using Flow. I'm not sure if you ever used it, and Flow was
No.
created by, I think, React founders, and it came with React. It was
Okay.
purely state types like prototypes, no, prop types. It's also another
Oh,
React.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was similar to that one. I might be confusing now, but I don't know. I remember Flow, but I mean TypeScript. It has a lot of features comes with TypeScript, such as generics and other complicated things. But this is not something we use every single day, and we use here and there if it's
Hmm.
necessary. But I think maintaining TypeScript is a little bit hard. I don't feel it because we have a platform team dedicated to that. So it's
Oh,
kind of,
nice.
yeah, making things a lot easier for us. We don't have to deal with this developer tool. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I'm glad you said that. I did not like TypeScript. I
Mm,
learned to like it, and I've used it now, and it is. And when I'm working with full stack apps, I see
mm,
it's pretty beneficial. Like using an
mm,
XJS app where you have your database connections and your API routes and your front end code all co-located in the same project.
mm,
TypeScript is not a bad idea. But
mhm,
yeah,
mhm,
it slowed me down quite a lot. I'm like, geez, what
mhm,
used to take me a day is now taking like 2 days sometimes to wrestle with the
mhm,
types. I was spending a whole day sometimes just
mhm.
fixing the types. And I'm like, this is the annoying piece to me too.
Yeah.
I know we're probably in the minority here. So, I'm sure all the people out there are like, oh, you just don't know it well enough. I'm like, okay, whatever. Uh, um, last
Agree.
last question for you. If React disappeared tomorrow, what would
Mhm.
you be using instead?
To be honest, I'd like to use pure JavaScript. Like I am overwhelmed with frameworks. Of course, it's not possible because we need to use a lot of things right
Yeah.
now. Back then, it wasn't as complicated as it is now. We have routers,
Hmm.
I don't know, themes, and a lot of things going on. But I think Angular or not Angular. Okay, Vue. I will say Vue.
Okay. Okay. I've heard nothing but good stuff about Vue. I always make fun of Vue
Yeah,
developers because I just don't see Vue. It doesn't seem as popular, but nothing's as popular as React.
yeah,
I've used
not
Vue once. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'm like, this is cool. I
yeah.
just make fun of Vue developers because there's so few of
Mhm.
them out there. But
Yeah,
but maybe I need to try it out. I'm getting a little tired of React myself. I've been writing
yeah,
it like you probably have for the last like 10 years. I'm like, okay, I wouldn't mind writing something a little different for a while.
yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. I really enjoyed this conversation. And where can people find you online? We're gonna have a link to your podcast for sure, but anywhere else where people can find you and listen to your opinions or get some information about your insight into the front end.
Yeah, I'm writing articles on Medium here and there.
Nice.
Yeah, when I have free time, and I'm trying to be more active on social media platforms. To be honest, it's something that I've been working on. But I wouldn't say that they can find me on LinkedIn, but I don't post as often as possible. But I'll definitely start posting.
You really should. I think you have
Yeah,
a lot of great opinions. I think you have
yeah.
people that actually. There's too many people online that don't
Mhm.
actually do the thing that are talking about it a lot, and I think we need more people like you that are doing it, that have opinions, have seen some things, and can help guide people with some actual advice based on what they've actually experienced. That's my opinion. I would love to
Yeah,
see you write more,
thank
but
you.
I'll have links to all that in the show notes as well. Thanks again for being on the show. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks for having me. Yeah, it was nice chatting with you.
That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. If you're serious about switching careers and becoming a software developer and building complex software and want to work directly with me and my team, go to parsity.io. And if you want more information, feel free to schedule a chat by just clicking the link in the show notes. See you next week.